Welcome back to Educational Currency. I'm Robert Namoski, proprietor of the Coaching College and Ultimate Jiu-Jitsu.
And I'm Chris Kaladikis from Maximum Education. And today, me and Rob, we were having a bit of a chat. We thought, what will we go over today? And we thought, let's get into some of the bread and butter of teaching. And with that is teaching strategies, Rob.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a topic we had a few topics in mind, but this one really stood out for us.
Yeah, we thought we'd, get to the core. And it was really nice, when Rob thinks about it, because then sometimes it's hard as a teacher, putting a label on your strategies or why is it you teach that certain way. And we thought it could be something that could help out beginner teachers, but also if you are a more experienced teacher, is there actually a label for what I am doing? And for my thought process, I kind of started back at university and thought, well, what were the strategies they were listing there, or at least the philosophies behind the strategies that kind of dictate how I'm teaching right now? And so that's kind of going to be my angle today.
Yeah, and having a strategy can put something that is not working in your class into place. So this would be something to look into. I mean, there's certain things that you do in the classroom that work, but there could be other things that you would like to improve on.
Yeah.
So this is something that we will discuss today and maybe see a bit of theory on people that have put labels on this in the past.
Yeah. So look, I'll kick it off, eh?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the one I wanted to start off with was one of the ones I learned at university. And once again, it's across the philosophical side as well. And it's Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences. At university, this was the first subject where I got my first distinction. And
So give us a little bit of
not pumping it up.
Okay, give us a little bit of Howard Gardner. Who is this man?
So basically, the man himself, I can't remember much about. But he had the multiple intelligence theory. And what it taught us was we all have multiple intelligences. Intelligence isn't just one thing. I'm not just good at academics in one area. He had a spectrum of intelligences. And those intelligences, I'm going to read them off screen because they are varied, were visual spatial, verbal linguistic, music rhythmic, logical mathematical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and body kinesthetic. And then we did kind of self-learning quizzes so we could kind of find out what were our intelligences.
Oh, wow.
And so with myself, and back then, and obviously if I did it now compared to back then, I reckon my answers would be different. I thought I was a big, fit, buff guy back at uni, and I'm not some dad bod that I am now. But mine were... All right. No, I've been watching you, Rob. It's an inspiration to me. But I was body kinesthetic as strong back then, and interpersonal. They were my two strengths. But then what that exercise was teaching me and giving knowledge to me of is our students have multiple intelligences. They all have different degrees of strengths and weaknesses, and how they will learn in your class will differ based on those. And probably the best way to visualize this is, especially if you look at primary school. In primary school, when they are teaching students, foundational stuff in the realm of education, well, they mightn't just dictate the information. They might put it into a song and cater to that musical intelligence and rhythmic intelligence there. Or there could be movement-based activities to learn with a numeric structure or foundation behind it to teach a certain skill. And we learn by movement while learning a numbers activity. So by being able to meld the intelligences and use different strengths and approaches, well, we can cater to a more diverse student intelligent base. Does that make sense?
So I have to dance while I'm doing calculus.
Well, that's it. You get in front of your Extension 2 class.
Okay.
That's very contemporary music.
This will be good.
Well, it is. And look.
Jokes aside, you could see, you're engaging different parts of the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually getting to stimulate that. And obviously, such a young brain, especially in primary school, is growing. That would be, it's not greatly beneficial. It's assumed that the teachers there will do that, and they do.
And when I look at the intelligences too, straight away you can see yourself in some of them, can't you?
I'd say, if you had me as a year 7 kid, I would have been music and rhythmical, obviously from playing an instrument. Not that I was very good at it, but I did play it for a while, and logical and mathematical. And
you'd be the physical as well, the body kinesthetic.
Yeah, the body. Oh yes, all that soccer. Yeah, definitely body kinesthetic. So it just Just depends on what the kids' activities are.
Yeah, well, that's
and,
it.
and that develops you.
But then some surprise you too. Like I said, because they did make us do quizzes and stuff to kind of say it. My weakest one was music rhythmic. And yeah, I can't play an instrument for peanuts. I can't sing, but I am a very good dancer. But still.
I was about to argue that. I think you do your moves.
It's very, very interpretive there. But but the surprise with me was the interpersonal being a strength for me, because at that point in my life, I didn't think I was so social back then. And it's funny that, that kind of like, oh yeah, really? And then now as I've gotten older, I see that I do have a social skill. I do like talking to people, and not everyone likes that.
Yeah, true. But that's a question of age as well.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely.
It depends at what age all of us into year 6, into year 7, you go through your quiet periods in the playground, you go through your active periods in the playground. Just depends when and where it catches you. But how could we apply this to high school now? Because our subjects are pretty set.
Yeah.
For example, logic, mathematical, especially coming in from a maths teacher, the visual, spatial could be put in with mathematics.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The verbal, linguistic, depends. If you're charismatic as a teacher, you would use those skills to actually, really improve your class, improve your delivery. The intrapersonal, you could say all aspects of it. That could be your relationships that you're building with the class and the students. But still, there's all little bits, as human nature, the little snippets of elements of every single thing that you've mentioned do create that human experience.
Oh, they do, and that's it. And it engages different people. And while we deliver it, we're also drawing it out of them, because like I have it in mind, like when I do my assignments, especially with the senior year groups, and this might be a reoccurring thing that I mentioned, but with year 12, the heartbreaker is that you're teaching to a HSC and you can't give so many diverse experiences that you wish you could in your subject area, especially in a creative subject area such as my own. But what you can do is definitely target activities towards these. Always make sure that the beginning of year 11, the students, like they develop a project, but in that first project specifically, they're going to present it to me if it was kind of like a Shark Tank. So it's like they are getting to use, their verbal intelligence and speak to what they want to do and, sell it to me. Not just with their words that they could put in a report, but a bit of that charisma.
So
comes
you're
out.
actually developing those skills in the students.
Yeah, that's what it's about. It's their skills.
Oh, so you're picking certain aspects of this and actually getting them to develop.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's how it supports the teaching, because they're all diverse in how they have these different skills, just as we are between us too. They are, and so one task will give strength to one group of students, but then another task gives strength to other students, and that's it. And the unfair thing is, it always finishes with an exam. And an exam is a skill in itself of just being able to sit down and write it. But that isn't it. That is only one aspect of intelligence, to be able to recall that information. Whereas if another student got a chance to sit down and explain their intelligence, if they'll put on the spot, they might perform better in a different scenario. But that's a whole tangent about the HSC. And
it is a developed skill.
Yeah.
And I say that always to the students. If I sat you in front of me and asked you what you know, it's very different putting that on pen and paper. And then some would do better being asked, others do better pen on paper.
That's 100% it. That's what we're saying.
So I have, I think it's called neuro-linguistic programming, where your visual, audio, or your kinesthetic. Now you realize especially if you're going in for a one-on-one explanation, some kids are fidgety, move around. So you can kind of slightly mimic that behavior.
Yeah.
You fidget, you move around with them, you over-exaggerate your mannerisms, and you explain what you need to explain. Now, if a kid is audio, that may not gel well with them.
Yeah.
So then you need to drop down at their eye level, have that audio voice, and then explain it in a way where you feel that you're coming across. And then someone visual could be, they need to see it.
Yeah.
Where you're actually on the board, you're writing diagrams down, etc. But then you're kind of like juggling all three.
Yeah.
With an individual approach, you can kind of read the situation. Your students to bring that strategy in. But then to a group, I think you have to have a broad spectrum of these things. So I think to say to new teachers out there, first identify your strengths, build on them. So if you are, for example, a body kinesthetic person, you might pace up and down the room, get the students' attention, etc., and have that, build a charismatic class that way. I mean, someone who's, for example, logic and mathematical, you could have a more audio voice, you could have an explanation that could start off there, but then bringing in a bit of body and kinesthetics can draw their attention. And someone else who's got that body and kinesthetics, bringing in a little bit more of an audio voice can change the tone of the class. So this requires that actually diversity across these fields that you mentioned quite well, that you're actually examining this.
Yeah.
But from a classroom perspective, which ones worked for you the most? What do you?
I really like getting him to do the verbal linguistic because I guess it's in English a lot. You know, we often, they know they've got to do orals there, but when you get them in another subject area, and particularly, once again, in my realm where it's an elective subject and it should be something they've chosen and are passionate about, you really get to see them express themselves when they get to talk about their project, something they've created. So that one is one that I use a lot specifically in an assessment scenario too, because you get to see that passion and how proud they are of their projects. And and initially when they first hear that they're going to be delivering verbally, it's very daunting to them. There's like a comfort barrier that they've got to break through, whether they have a strength in that or not. They know they're going to be standing in front of the class and telling an idea. So it's confronting at first, but then you do get to see how well they know their stuff. And the contrast between that student who might be more of a pen and paper kind of student, who's probably written hundreds of papers about what it's going to be, but then they can't express it as naturally. So that one shows the most differentiation. And it's not too imaginative, that one, because I have done a SAFE one and, verbal assessments have been around for years, but you can see who genuinely knows their stuff and the amount of thought that's gone into their work.
Well, someone on the debating team would absolutely kill it.
Well, that's it.
Yeah,
well, that's
they're
it.
practiced.
And look, and I want to jump back to what you were saying too when you're talking about the different ways you're trying to show the information too, with the visual, the verbal, and the kinesthetic too. And I've mentioned this in previous videos myself, but that was kind of a fuel from the beginning of my YouTube channel, that I wasn't just going to give it as text-based information. Well, no, I was going to have my audio in there explaining the information, and the diagramics for visual.
That's what highlights as the senses.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Absolutely.
And so it caters to the audience. But then if we talk about this as an educational platform too, and what we're doing right now, I'd even say we're kind of teaching interpersonally because we discuss everything. And some people learn through that way. So I could be here and just be lecturing these ideas. But the fact that you and me are talking about it in a discussion format, some people learn through that kind of questioning. We're questioning each other. We're illustrating each other's ideas and extracting from each other. Well, that's the interpersonal intelligence there. And so that caters to someone of that man. So this in itself, it's a different branch.
Especially in computing, isn't that into your group projects?
Well, that's it too. That's it, being able to work in a team. And once again, with group projects, as we all know, group projects sound great, but it's funny when students are put into that situation, how quickly they can fall apart too.
Yeah.
Same characters can clash, or some people who are academic intelligent can't work with peers. It's got to be their way, and that's the kind of skill they've got to learn too. So it's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, especially adding to the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be as academic as you want. If you can't work with people, no one's going to work with you.
That's it. Well, it's one of the most coveted skills, teamwork. Teamwork and collaboration.
There's no way around that. So as teachers, we need to develop, especially even teaching in mathematics, it does require teamwork.
Of course.
People think mathematics is an individual thing where you sit and do your work, but no, when I found them working in groups, even the student that actually explains the material to someone who doesn't understand develops a much deeper understanding of what they are explaining. And it does help the other student that doesn't understand that they may get it in a more personal approach from some of their peers. Don't get me wrong, the teacher is the main source of the information, but getting the students to collaborate together does actually give them a chance to reflect back on what they're learning and explaining it to each other. The person explaining does lift their knowledge up,
because in their
to a high
language,
level.
they're talking their same language. Like you're learning from a peer, they deliver it differently, don't they?
But anything you explain, you do learn it better. So my advice to students is if there's anyone next to you who doesn't understand something, no matter what the subject, just explain it to them. explain your version of it, and then your brain will highlight bits of information for yourself that you will develop a deeper understanding of. And I more than encourage it in my classroom. It's a must.
Yeah. Well, you're almost segueing into what the next one is that I'm going to bring up. And the next one is Bloom's Taxonomy, developed by Benjamin Bloom. And I'll go through the levels of the taxonomy here, but that idea of that higher level of academic rigor is showing that, when you are teaching someone else, when you are doing things at these higher levels of intelligence. So I'll go through them, and it does specifically relate to cognitive skill. Okay, so what is better representations of showing cognitive skill in our different areas? So I'll go through the taxonomy, and it does look like a pyramid when you do look it up online. I made a very good YouTube video on this one once before. Okay, so check it out.
Look it up.
And it's one of the best colored diagrams of it too, I will say as well. But I'll start at the bottom, and it's going to be interesting because
whether you look up your YouTube video?
Yeah, they can. Maybe Kate can tag it in the video.
Yeah. Yes, that'll be good.
That'll be great, Kate, and put the diagram. But from the bottom up, and some of these ones at the bottom might be like things that you might think traditionally you are doing in class. And then as you get to the top, you might realize, that's why my teacher does that, or that's why my assessments are a certain way, because they're testing the higher cognitive ability. So at the bottom, we have straight up remembering. That is the bottom of the taxonomy. You can just remember information. You have a basic understanding of something. And I shouldn't even use the word understanding, because that is the one above remembering.
Yeah, because remembering is just basically a photocopy.
Yeah, being able to recall the information. Yeah. Understanding shows that you've got an idea about it. You get kind of what the gist of what you've just learned in. What I was careful of not saying in that one is the one above that then is applying. We can apply the knowledge to scenarios. Okay, so that is the third tier of the taxonomy. I've learned this information. I've been given a question. I can now apply this skill, this practice, this strategy to the specific scenario. Above applying is then analyzing now. You're looking deeper into information. We're looking at scenario-based information. We've been given blurbs, and we've got to say what's going on there and try to develop a solution from there too. And this is now kind of where we're getting into HSC territory now, where they love giving scenario-based questions for a student to answer and not necessarily give the answers within the question, but they've then got to apply their knowledge the step before to analyze the scenario and then deliver the correct content there. Above analyzing is then evaluating, being able to look at a system or, once again, a scenario that is in place and being able to critically give an opinion on the potential success of that idea or ways you'd go about it differently. Okay, so with analyzing, the deeper look, the deeper understanding into how that process works and almost being able to yay or nay it when we go into the evaluation stage. And then right at the top, we have creativity, creating an area. And, the tech teachers would love to brag about this one because we're always creating. We're developing our pencil box and doing all this stuff, following that design process. But creating is deemed to be the highest level. And it's funny, I once watched this interview. It was these two bodybuilding brothers, the Paul twins, and they were interviewing one of them, and he was getting into like arts and all this after he finished his bodybuilding and all that. And he had this quote, and it's, creating brings you closer to the creator. And it's almost because it's that idea that when you're creating, it's an expression. It's an expression of yourself being able to create something new. And if you've done all these foundational levels of understanding that we just spoke about in the taxonomy, and then you can use that cognitive ability you have in that area to create, well, then you have the highest level of understanding in that area.
Well, creating is, I believe, creating is a gift.
Yeah, it is.
It's an absolute gift for people who can do this. And it's one of those things I know from a mathematical perspective, creating enters into genius territory.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, and anything that we do in life, you could pick the most mundane profession to the one that requires the most serious study. What separates people apart is their creativity. And there's no way around that.
Yeah, and it's it does. It almost correlates to your purpose, and you've seen it. You've been spoken about it from the mathematical aspect too, and we've seen when maths combines with physics, amazing things happen. Through the experiments and through the tests, and then the development of new technologies or the structures in our society, and then let's bring it over now to the teaching aspect. And I was giving it a few there, but if you can show students where your subject's going to lead, the job it's going to lead them to, and then the potential for creativity, that's how you help them find their path. Okay, where will that student be? How will they find their purpose? Because we are all creative beings. Your subject area, okay, whether it be one of the mandatory subject areas or the elective subject areas, if you can express through your lesson teaching, where will what you're teaching them allow them to be in society and to express themselves through their creativity? Well, you're going to have a big win there. Okay, that will help engage them in it. And, you've been with Extension 2 students all the time. What you're teaching them is all the higher level stuff in mathematics.
From my perspective, in mathematics, I showed them the theory and whoever the person was, how they created that. So it opens your eyes more than just a mechanical calculation that matches the back of the book for you to get a question correct. When you see, for example, something simple, ask, okay, what's Pythagoras' theorem? A squared equals b squared plus c squared. Actually, that's algebra. What did Pythagoras do? And most of the time I get blank stares. Now it's in the textbook, but and the textbook does show you the creative process. Most people skip that, go to the mechanical interaction, do your algorithm, get it right, look at the back, the answer's correct, but nobody could answer for me. What did Pythagoras do? And that goes back to the creativity of his discovery of the longest side in a right angle triangle. If you create a square and then create squares with the other two sides, the sum of the two smaller squares is equal to the larger square. So now Pythagoras it was very creative to actually figure out that area equals the sum of the other two areas without the algebra. Now that's the creativity. Now students learn, say, in my perspective, from mathematics, you show them the creative process. And then they can create their own formula. From that, and you can put this through in nearly all levels of maths, and I'm pretty sure all other subjects. So even from a teaching perspective, remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating. Okay, great, may get you the marks. The creativity gets you the state rankings.
Well, look, that's it. And once again, if we are talking about the HSC there too, and I can speak in my area of enterprise computing, you're going to do a major work, which is all about creativity. But those other words are very important to understand too that are beneath it, evaluating and analyzing. Because when you do your HSC, your 3-mark questions, your 4-mark questions, I can only speak really in my own realm there, but they are to the higher side for a single question. That's where there's going to be a lot of marks there because they involve you critical thinking. Okay, to critically analyze situations and apply your knowledge, which once again is the step below that. You can't just think in preparation for your HSC that you just got to remember information and constantly go over your notes. You got to rewrite your notes until your point that you understand them and develop your own cognitive ability in that area too. So it's actually very beneficial whether you are a student out there or a teacher, an understanding of these terms and why the HSC uses specific keywords for their questions. Obviously, we don't have discuss in there or justify, but they are kind of correlating with that analyzing and evaluation. So just keep that in mind. That's why they're testing a higher level of cognition in your mind, okay, which is in line with the taxonomy. And this taxonomy has evolved. There's a digital taxonomy now too, and it's been around for a while, but it's a fantastic principle. Once again, something that might have been introduced to many teachers such as myself at university. And, you can really see how it does apply very well to teaching and challenges us to make more challenging tasks for our students and their understanding. Now, we'll jump across to the next one, Robin. You're a master at this.
Questioning mindset.
The questioning mindset. Okay, and here we're specifically saying, and look, I'm going to start off general, but then I will link it to a philosopher soon. But with a questioning mindset, it's those classroom discussion being the foundation of how you're teaching your students. You use questions and you're bringing them into the class. You're inviting conversation from the students in your class. And this has its own challenges with it because there are some students who are happy to answer the question, and not by their own fault, but then they end up being the one that answers all the questions and the rest of the class, kind of sit back and listen. And, I've been guilty of that a few times, that I keep going to the same student. But the goal is to engage all students in your class, okay? Question them, put them on the spot. Sometimes it's just that they're a more introverted character and they do know the answer and they'll happily say it, but welcome them in and, build that rapport in the class. But Rob, what are some of your strategies in this area?
Well, depends. If I'm specifically going to ask a student a question, I'd prefer before I ask them a question, I'd ask them a few questions privately. See if they can answer me first.
Yeah.
So part of my teaching strategy would be, well, if I'm going to ask a student a question public, like out loud for everyone to hear, make sure you've approached that student first previously in the past. And just get them to explain a question to you, and then actually highlight to them, oh wow, that was really good.
Yeah.
The class would have loved to have heard that. There were a few people where that explanation would have done them well, and then you'll get their feedback whether they're okay with that or they're not. And then if they are, next time, you can pull them up straight away. I mean, I put up a ridiculously difficult indice question. I didn't particularly think anyone would get it, and one student did.
Wow.
And I was super impressed with him. And a few days later, I went, we finished all the work. We're having that bit of quiet time, gave him the pen on the board. Okay, explain your solution. And he went up there, pen on the board. Everyone's watching him, and he's up there giving us a layout of how he got the question correct. Wow. And you just see him thrive up there.
Yeah.
Where it was a bit of a gamble because it was quite a difficult question to actually answer on paper, and let alone to put it up on the board and explain it. But this student is, he's super intelligent. He's got almost an academic gift. But on the other hand, it doesn't have to be just that. A simple question where, the answer is quite simple. Everyone knows the answer, and to build someone's confidence, and you go, okay, fire away.
Yeah.
Especially if you're getting the eye contact. This is important to gauge the room. If the student's watching you, getting the eye contact, just a simple hand gesture of like, could anyone tell me the answer? Slight stare and just look and see if they respond. If they don't want to respond, do not push it. It'll be one of the things where you may take away their learning.
Yeah.
So be careful with their approach, but a questioning mindset is critical. So you still can create a questioning mindset in a more intrapersonal relationship with the student. So it just depends. Like we said before, you gauge the room. Every room is different. Every student is different, and you just got to play it. I do play it a lot on my intuition, but then my intuition is based on my previous experience with the students. So I would highly recommend that to starting teachers.
No, and I like what you said too, and that is a very good point, that you do have to be careful with the specific students because, they might not like what they said, or they might want to say things in front of the whole class, and to kind of check them with that. And then empower them first before you do it, because I even reflect on my own classes just sometimes when I'm floating around and they're doing their own project work and a student does ask a good question, I will say, I'm going to let the whole class know that, and I'll repeat it out to the whole class and kind of say, this student here, then I'll say them obviously by name, I won't just say it like that, but they raised a fantastic question, and that's actually really good because I think it applies to all of you and you really try to get it across. I also think this approach too, it's a very class-led approach, and it kind of stems across to a notion that was around a few years ago that I know is a bit more critical, and it was called flipping the classroom, where it's like it was student-led learning. And that's it. I love the reactions on that. And I'm not going to go into detail on too much.
For some things, you wouldn't do a student-led learning the whole time.
No, that's right.
But there could be situations where you could every now and then, instead of giving them that free time to finish the work, bring something like that in.
Yeah. And
that could be effective.
Yeah, that's right. It can be applied, but then it could also be abused and it can go poorly too. And you need the right class to do that with too. But that idea, that students can lead and have input when they are allowed to question. And then with the questioning mindset as well, we had a great example of it in one of our past episodes with Nick Boskowski, and he mentioned that when he spoke to students about particular novels, he'd play devil's advocate sometimes, and he'd take an opinion stance that wasn't necessarily his own, but to trying to show the students another idea or different motives that might have been on the side of the author or someone in that book. And so he'd play that and then question students from that example and go, why would they have done it this way? I don't see anything wrong with that. Why would you? How would you defend yourself in that situation? What would you say to convince me otherwise? Like, I can't do it as well as him, but he gave some great exambles of that.
Yeah, it's part of his teaching. That actually is a part of his teaching strategy.
Yeah, I know. He's a master of it. Yeah, I'm pumping you up, Nick, okay?
But yeah, questioning mindset, not just from a teacher, you can see it from you want to see it from the student.
Yeah, that's right. And that's it. It's almost a two-way street. You kind of model it for your class. And then if you show that you can have open dialogue, and I think you've got to be careful too that, the old idea, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The dumbest question is the one you don't ask. That kind of philosophy going in your class, okay, that'll hopefully open up communications and students can get to areas of the who, what, when, why related to particular scenarios so that they can find the information they want and, obviously better prepare them for scenarios.
And actually learn the information.
Yeah, exactly.
Because any information you are teaching, why? You have to be able to explain it as a teacher.
You do.
Where it come from, you have to be able to explain it as a teacher.
Yeah.
Where am I going to use it or where is it used? You have to be able to explain that as a teacher.
Well, that's it. And it teaches you to learn through dialogue, conversation being a key to learning. And look, I'll use that now to scale across to our next one. And it still pretty much is questioning mindset. But now we're going back to old Socrates. Okay, and it's what's known as the Socratic method. And with the Socratic method, okay, essentially, this almost is kind of what I was using as well with Nick's example too. It's trying to look at different perspectives of ideas and once again, talking about them through discussion. Okay, so we're getting an understanding of a topic, but once again, we're not simply just providing information. We're not the teacher at the front just conveying information to the class and explaining all the answers there. We're kind of trying to use questioning to justify different standpoints of what we're trying to teach. So this is the Socratic method. And then a particular activity that we learned in our PD, and I thank my leader of learning for teaching us this over the past 2 years, is you can do a thing known as Socratic circles in the class, where you break the class into subgroups, and then the students question each other and their own motives and perspectives and opinions on particular topic areas. So that's known as Socratic circles. So what could these questions look like? And I've got a few written down here. So it could be you're looking at or teaching students like, use the following terms when talking to each other. So why do you say that? What do you mean by that? How does this relate to our discussion? What is the main issue in what we are discussing here? Or could you expand on that point further? So we're trying to elaborate on the knowledge we are talking about and kind of trying to get students to be prepared to express themselves more deeply. Okay, when questioned, they know they're going to be questioned more deeply. What are they going to say? And obviously that accesses their higher levels of cognition, as we just spoke about in the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, they will have to evaluate and critique and analyze and be prepared to defend their opinions. And once again, you mentioned before, it kind of goes back to debating, doesn't it?
Debating is a skill for you to be able to verbally express yourself and bring forth your opinion. So, definitely join the debating team.
Yeah, it is. Oh, that's it, 100%.
Yeah. But on the other hand, you got to be open to learning as well. You can't just debate your way through everything and anything, but especially with what you said with, why did you say that? You're opening up a question for you to learn something.
Yeah. And I guess that's a very important key. Yeah, you're not just questioning because I'm right, you're wrong. It teaches them that let's open up the discussion, keep the discussion flowing. So essentially you're both learning through discussion. Yeah. Okay, you have your points, and you both could be right or challenge each other so we can look deeper into it and you both learn.
Yeah, but the students should be able to challenge us.
Yeah.
I've had maths situations where they do throw those questions at me, but it's my job as the teacher to bring it across to them in a way so then they learn. And if you can do that, then they'll respect you.
Oh, 100%, you know, and especially that. And if you do it back to them, they want to feel challenged and have their wins too. You know,
but make it challenging enough for them to win.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. You know, there has to be that degree of positivity that come out of it. You know, and look, the thing that I like about mentioning the Socratic method too, you know, obviously we're talking thousands of years BC, but it also shows, you know, this was the era of philosophy and education, and that was a foundation of it back then. And those principles still work today. We like to think we've advanced and changed so much as a race, but look, this is different times, harder times. Effective strategies,
mate. Things that have lasted the stretch of centuries.
Yeah,
you know, I don't think we're going to revolutionize them that quickly now.
No.
So definitely, you know, something that something that has been used throughout time to teach. These are the first strategies that you use.
Yeah, you know, and just how foundational education is in our industry, you know, that principle and the way things were taught back then, and we still remember from philosophies back then, you know, from good old Socrates.
But before you're able to do that, you have to go through Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Well, that's it, eh?
And as a teacher, it should be one of the things where you need to go, okay, you need to check off the layers.
Yeah, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and this is one that I remember. I'm jumping back to university once again too. This was one of the first things they actually did present us with, and it's funny because when I went into teaching, like this caught me off guard because I didn't even think I'd be learning any philosophy or any physiological and psychological ideas. I thought I was just going to become a tech teacher and learn about computing and woodwork and just teaching me how to do that. But it's funny because this one more so is more foundational. So once again, we have a hierarchy, all right? And this time we're talking about the needs of the human. And if we understand the needs of the human, we then cater our education so that we are helping our students to achieve these higher levels in Maslow's hierarchy. So I'll go through the hierarchy now. Kate, when we do this, we have little pictures coming on the screen. We'll see little diamonds coming on screen. Okay, then I can be like, should I point to the left? Well, I'll have to go back. Rob's head will be there. Or I could do it in the middle.
Rob's head will get in the way.
Just cover our faces.
Yeah.
Okay, but at the base of the hierarchy, so firstly we have physiological needs. We're talking survival here. So we're talking about things such as, our food, our water, our nutrition, things that allow us to survive. The level above the physiological is then safety and security. I should say too, you'll see different labels and different versions of the hierarchy of needs too. But with safety and security, we're talking about health, employment, property, family, social ability.
But as a student, you've got a kid in class who hasn't met his psychological needs, it would be almost impossible to teach him.
Isn't it sad too? That's a reality. And that's something that should be said to new teachers out there too.
So you could watch their clothing, then they're falling asleep at the desk. They don't seem to be bringing their lunches in. There's something more serious going on. So our job as teachers isn't just education. It's to give them a place where that need can be met.
You're 100% right, Rob. And it's good you said that early on because just having students, coming into school and you can see that they've had a hard time at home. You can see malnourishment. And we say it all the time, we work in good schools and people pay fees to come to our schools, but we still pick up on this stuff. And I imagine it's even more broader in the public system too. And so that's what we're trying to say with this one, how relevant it is there. So these are just the first two levels we're still on.
Well, you need a student needs to go past that level, and even the one you said, safety and security. Even now, psychological needs. I mean, this is completely to the actual physical and mental well-being of the child. Now, it's gone past the point of you being able to teach them, and that's when you become a mandatory reporter, etc., and everything else that goes on with the teaching profession, especially on the more serious side of reporting these things, and that goes as well into Maslow's safety and security.
Well, look, is in probably more broader, you'll see it too. Like I just mentioned as well, like a part of that is health, employment, property, family, and social ability. There are students that, they're good at that base level of the physiological needs. But then when it comes to that, like they might be living between two homes. There is a bit of difficulty about them. They have to live at a certain house a few days a week and then another house another few days a week. that stuff, though many families do it very well because they're for the best intentions of their children, there are sometimes very hard situations in that category too that stem into my realm of well-being. So just not having that foundation will impact learning, whether it's just an organizational basis or just they're just trying to keep their life together and it's just struggling to get to school is the challenge in itself.
Yeah, but what do you think? If those two levels aren't met, the cards are stacked against you.
If the first one's not met, very hard, incredibly hard.
First one, it's basically physically what's happening to the child, mentally how's this child being affected.
Yeah,
it becomes a very serious matter that's still straight to the principal.
Yeah.
So if a child's psychological needs are not met, we are mandatory reporters that report it straight to the principal.
Yeah, and that's what you should be knowing that too, okay? If you are a young teacher out there, you do need to report in this situation, and schools will approach the best way they can too, and sometimes they already are working with those families, which is great that and sometimes that's the win. We might not be able to teach them out of this.
Yeah, because if we're working with those families, then I think the psychological needs are probably have been met. Then we're moving up to the safety and security and love and belonging.
Yeah, and love and belonging, I guess, is the key.
Third one.
That is the third, and this is good. Now we're entering like positive territory. Now, this is the foundation young people need. Now, obviously, love and belonging at home, we're hoping it's guaranteed too. But the idea of a sense of belonging with students in their school, that is key at this level. So sense of belonging could mean students have input to decisions being made at their school. All right, so they can, have an idea about festival days, and we're doing a market day in a few weeks at school, and the kids are going to be bringing in as a part of commerce, different foods. Like they're getting a bit of ownership at the school, and they're feeling like it's theirs. I love talking about the history of the school that I work at, and that the school is a part of a community, just as it is with your school too.
Yes.
There's a bigger community, so love and belonging is a key now. Like it's such an important part of students being able to push a bit more forward now. Whereas the first two we kind of said can be detrimental. Now we're entering territory.
Yeah, because if the first two are met, okay, that's pretty much a lot of your problem solved. It really is. I mean, back to safety and security and family, the hardest thing I think probably that we need to look at is say conflicting parents. Parents going through a hard time.
Yeah.
Maybe going through a divorce. Maybe the child separated between two homes. I'm sure you've seen situations where just the arguments of the parents and putting their children in the middle, that would have a detrimental effect.
Yeah. And the key to getting through that is when parents work together and still are able to deliver that love and belonging.
But the school could be an avenue to escape.
Yeah.
So even though what could be happening at home, we could create a place where safety and security may not be met because of the family and that relationship between the parents. But then when they come to school, we could give them that place of love and belonging, and then you watch the child thrive.
Yeah. Well, one of the most proudest aspects of the school that I work at, and it's funny because I've spoken about it a few times with our assistant principals, is this: you can tell the students feel it's a safe place. The vast majority, I can't speak for everyone, things will always happen in school, but the genuine principle is students aren't in a hurry to leave in the afternoon. There might be kids staying back to do basketball, they're going to the library. Just the environment they feel at the school is a safe place. And it is that it happens because they've got 1,000 stories between them. Yeah,
because we are at both of us do work at an affluential school.
Yeah.
And the school, it's a nice place to go. It gives you that warm, encompassing environment for you to learn. And then when the school bell does leave, there's always social activities that are going on everywhere. Whether it's on the basketball court, whether it's in the library, or whether the school itself has other outside, curriculum activities that involve the school. And that's just, thanks to the structure of the school, the wellbeing teams, and everyone else involved in running it. Yeah. And that's where we get our wins.
Yeah, we do. And it also shows why it takes a special person to be a teacher. And that's what we're all about here too, you know.
Come on to the profession. That's
come join us.
This podcast.
Yeah. But we'll keep moving up.
Now,
we're only halfway there.
Now to build the student.
Yeah. So then this brings us in now to the second from the top. That's where we're at. We're not even at the top yet. Second from the top is now self-esteem. So now we're like empowering the student to feel confident in themselves. They're not just loved now. They don't just feel comfortable, but now we're getting that degree of confidence, giving that essence of achievement, respect, the need for them to be a unique individual. And probably in our different subject areas, feeling empowered by what they're learning and the ability to apply. And this is, you kind of now can see a correlation now back to Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, if you've got that self-esteem, you're confident to give your opinion of an idea or criticize an idea. So it gives them a strength and them for those high levels of cognition.
Yeah, but they have to have gone, you have to have filled the ones before.
Yeah, of course, that's right.
You cannot just jump to self-esteem.
No, that's it. Can you have self-esteem if your physiological needs aren't being met, or if you don't have love and support? Where does it come? You can't just have, you're not just an empty cup and then you're able to produce confidence.
But as teachers, we are the ones that need to bring that self-esteem out. Mm-hmm. Anytime a student does get something right, a slight acknowledgement, not too much, because you can overdo it and actually, your input will become worthless, but a slight thing of, oh, good, I like that. Just a very slight praise of acknowledging, wow, okay, good. Or especially myself, if I'm on the board, I make a mistake, I tell the students 9 out of 10 times you'll be right, but I will check it and I'll be like, great, thanks for picking me up on the board. Minus or a plus error or something I've forgotten. And the student develops that sense of self-esteem when they're following it correctly and they do catch on or they do say something that's correct or something that I particularly like in the room. Now, I'm not going to walk in to a room and just flood everyone with self-esteem. No, it has to be appropriate. It has to be, done in a correct manner, and the rest of the room needs to acknowledge it. Even if they don't acknowledge it in a way where, they all pat the person on the back, but the rest of the room realizes, okay, this was a good thing that was done. And you'd actually build real self-esteem like this. Just be careful with flooding kids, trying to give them that self-esteem constantly. It'll backlash on you where then whatever you say, that's what this teacher does, calls everyone great.
Or they just feed off the praise. It expands ego rather than their own confidence.
If you praise everyone in the room, you've praised nobody.
Yeah.
Because then the kids pick up on it. Kids pick up on everything.
Yeah.
And you got to be very careful with that, especially when you want to build someone's self-esteem.
Yeah.
Self-esteem is built on something you like that the student's done and you acknowledge that. And no one in the room will question it, and everyone knows, oh, wow, that was good. Now, it doesn't have to be an everyday thing. You don't have to build someone's self-esteem every single minute they're with you. But if something is done from a quiet kid, you go, oh, wow, I really like that.
Yeah.
Or even, say in my year 7 class, I've got a child where I do know there could be an slight issue with the love and belonging. This child can be a bit emotional, but that doesn't mean I still can't try with the self-esteem.
That's right.
You may be the only person to giving them a little bit of positive feedback in their lives, making them feel valued.
Oh, look, it's so important, and like I said, and that even though you're trying to support their self-esteem, you are giving them love and belonging by doing that process too.
So you can actually fill a little bit of that gap.
Yeah, and that's what makes this job so rewarding too.
When you have your wins, nothing beats it. Nothing beats it, And then, we come up to the pinnacle.
Yeah, and look, at the top, now, I will say, as I said, I learned this at uni, and I said the one that resonated with me was the first one, Gardner's Multiple Intelligence, but I did learn this first. I often forgot the name of what this model was called. I remember I had to think of it a few years ago. The way I was always remembered how to look it up is because the thing that did resonate was this pinnacle, and that is self-actualization. Now, this concept is actually what resonated with me the most over the whole hierarchy itself. The rest of it kind of made very logical sense, but I remember when I first saw that term, I was like, I didn't even know what it meant at that point. I was only 18 years old. And it's so funny because it's almost like a full circle thing, because here I am now as a 40-year-old, and with my peers, people who have been confident for many years, have been professionals for 20 years, this concept of self-actualization is something that is almost coming up again in their lives now It's big when students are about to leave school, and it's big when we hit our midlife crisis age. But what is self? And you're looking good for it. But it is, and I guess I should explain what it is, because that's what I mean. It's the mystery of it. Self-actualization is finding your purpose in life. Your purpose. What are you about? Your morality, your creativity. We spoke about creativity before. The fact you feel like you found your path. And I found that so interesting that is the highest level. For me, at that time of 18, I thought, self-esteem would be number one. I'm confident, I'm young, I can do whatever I want, the world's at my feet. But to find your purpose is self-actualization. And it is a big deal at the end of high school. They're about to graduate and, go off into the great unknown of university and the freedom of life as an adult. And I actually love that with my year 12 classes, that I always tell them I'm not just teaching into the HSC, I'm teaching beyond the HSC. Where are you going to go? What job are you going to do? Where are you going to be happy? And I saw that the most even last year, where I wasn't just a year 12 teacher, but a leader of wellbeing, and having those discussions with students and ensuring that they're on the best possible pathway. But even those pathways, and there's many people we know at our ages, not everyone finds self-actualization, Rob.
That's because they're not teachers.
That's right, If you join it and you gave back to the youth.
But you're right with that. Even just recently now, I had my year 12 parent-teacher interview. And it wasn't about how they're performing in their marks. It was about what are you planning next year?
Yeah.
Which became more of an important conversation to whatever mark they're going to achieve.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to that self-actualization. But a self-actualization is a lifelong journey.
It is a lifelong journey. And that's the thing. And don't feel bad if you don't think you are on the right path. That's what I'm saying. People are our age still fighting. There's nothing wrong with it. And I don't know, I can't speak for you, Rob. I don't know where I'm going to be over the next 20 years. It is a long journey, but I can confidently say I feel like I'm correlated with my purpose in what I'm doing.
Yeah, I joined this actually teaching at a school 3 years ago. And I'd say, that could have been a self-actualization moment for me.
Yeah.
Like I could have kept going with certain aspects of my businesses that would have probably generated me more money. But in essence of what I'm doing at the school now is a lot more fulfilling. So that could have been a self-actualization moment as well. And there are many other aspects in life that you can feel that way. And like I said, that in itself, it's the top of the pyramid for the reason, because you're constantly at it.
Yeah.
It's never a finished product. Like what you feel is self-actualization at 40 can be different at 50, can be different at 60.
When I was 20, completely different. 100%, you're correct.
And it's allowed to change, and it has to change. So that's what, in my opinion, that's what self-actualization is. I mean, you shouldn't be the same person you are at 40 than you are at 50, and at 50 than you are at 60. Well, what has happened in your Maslow hierarchy of needs that hasn't allowed you to go there? You can look back. Are you back down to self-esteem? Has something happened? Has something happened to your love and belonging?
Yeah.
So it may not be a process that you always will be at. It's nice to say, I've reached the top of the pyramid. That doesn't mean you'll always stay there.
Yeah, very good point, Rob. Very good point.
And just be careful of that with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Your pyramid could collapse. Then you start building it again from the ground up.
And that is actually, if I put my wellbeing hat on too, that is the same with the students. You might have a student that looks great, is doing great all the time. And then for that point, you don't focus on them as much. But then something can happen in their lives and suddenly they could set them right down to the bottom. Okay, and really set them off on a trajectory. And that's when we do have to approach our young people and show them that we care. And as we've just mentioned, school being that safe place.
Yeah, exactly. But give them the skills to be able to take the next step forward.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like maybe a philosophy I have in my life. No matter what happens, my next step is forward.
Yeah.
So God forbid you fall down Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's always a step to go up.
Yeah.
And eventually you do get to self-actualization. How long you stay there may not be dependent up to you.
Yeah.
Could be some disease, could be some accident.
Yeah, anything can happen in your life.
Anything can happen. But again, just have that will and that
intrinsic
drive.
Motivation,
that drive to take that next step forward, and especially as teachers. So in teachers, you could leave the profession because you're not actually self-actualization anymore. There are things that are happening in your life that don't allow you to do that. A breakup in a relationship, a sick family member that may just force you out of the profession.
Yeah.
But then always do feel, look, you can come back. This is something that, at one point you were happy being a teacher.
Yeah.
And, especially if you're a good one, you will find your way back.
That's it.
You have to.
And naturally your purpose will change. Okay, so you are a good teacher. Well, let's move up into a different area of the hierarchy or a different realm of teaching. It will change with your experience too, whether negative or positive. Okay, they can take you all over the place. But I think we got rather deep with this one.
Yeah,
teaching strategies got deep.
We've got to bring a philosopher in to explain it to us a little better.
I hope so. Okay.
I've got a few friends that do this, and we'll definitely bring them on. But just a overall perspective from our personal experiences. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs pretty much, I think, summarizes it really well. Yeah,
it goes beyond the teaching, but more the understanding, the foundations of our young people.
Yeah, and yourself.
And ourselves.
I mean, if there's something there that's inhibiting you, if your relationship at home is suffering, you don't have a sense of belonging anywhere, your self-esteem is suffering as a teacher. Like you are not projecting the best version of yourself out there to teach the kids. And they will pick up on it.
Yeah, they do.
They will pick up on it, and that can lead into classroom management problems. That can lead into problems with your peers. Now, you may not see it, but I'm sure, you go into every school, you get the stories of what's happened in the past with teachers, and you realize, something's, there can be a problem there with this person, or, well, could have we helped that teacher in a certain way to get them back on track?
Well, and you know what, that's a great point to finish on too, because I actually have seen situations like that, and it's the peers that get each other through it. So look out for your fellow teachers too, okay? Because our lives can fall apart too, and sometimes the school is a safe place and a second home for us as well.
Yeah,
and that helps us get through it. So
as a teacher, it should be that place where no matter what's happening at home, and it's hard to do, school's a fresh start. Prepare your work, present your material, build that rapport with your fellow staff members, and the relationship with your classroom and your students, and that would get you through hard times you're personally having as well.
There you go. I think we covered all bases, Rob. Teaching strategies.
Yeah, teaching strategies, definitely. And like I said, we did this podcast for a reason.
We did.
Yeah, we did this podcast to bring people into the profession and, God willing, keep people in the profession.
That's it. Show how beautiful their realm of education is. And I think a lot of these things we've spoken about today, it applies to life as it does in the classroom, doesn't it?
Yeah, it has to. It has to. There's no other way around it.
That's it. Okay. Well, remember everyone to like, share, subscribe, and comment.
Please, and definitely tell your friends.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm Robert Namoski.
And I'm Chris Kaladikis. See you later, everyone.
See you. Take care.
That was great, man.
Oh, it's an easy
one.
Easy one. I knew as soon as I wrote it up, we'll just flow.